नमस्कार। रसोई के रहस्य के फेस्टिवल्स ऑफ इंडिया में आपका एक बार फिर से स्वागत है। जैसे मैं पहले भी बता चुकी हूँ, इस साल का त्योहार का दूसरा दौर शुरू हो चुका है। We are now in the second leg of festivals in India. That means lots of festivals, lots of celebration and lots of stories.
रसोई के रहस्य आओ मिलकर खोले हम, रसोई के रहस्य आओ मिलकर खोले हम।
Today's festival is something that's worth as many stories as one can speak of, and involves the most vibrant and the most spoken of character in Hindu mythology. You guessed it, Krishna. We're talking about Janmashtami and everything that is Krishna. To speak with me about Janamashtami and Krishna is a wonderful storyteller. And let me introduce you to her before anything else. I have with me Nandita Sankaran, who is a professional storyteller. So hold your breath. There's going to be some lovely storytelling coming here for you. And she not just tells you stories in different languages, but different genres. And she's also the co-founder of something called Storyteller, where they spread joy and learning through stories for all ages and everyone. Without delaying it anymore, let me introduce you to Nandita. Nandita, welcome to Rasoi Ke Rahasya. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Payal.
So, storytelling, Krishna, Nandita, now I have quite a wonderful combination going over here. So, let's start with Janmashtami. You admitted to me when we began speaking that Janmashtami was one of your favorite festivals personally. So, Let's begin with asking you why. What makes Janmashtami so special for Nandita?
So Janmashtami is all about Krishna, and Krishna always has been the child god, a favorite, kind of a god from Hindu mythology for me.
Yeah.
And celebrating Janmashtami has always been there at home from my childhood days. So typically, one difference about this festival as compared to all the other festivals is Janmashtami is celebrated usually in the evening, because Krishna was born at night. So it's like ushering in Krishna in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
So it would always be going back home from school, and then we would have the whole Krishna Janmashtami celebrations with all the savories and sweets being prepared, and then the puja happening. So small little memories of those, and somehow it always made me wonder that such a nice thing to do, in the evening. You have a celebration in the evening, whereas everything else would be like start early morning, get up, do that.
Yes, in Tamil homes, you want to beat the sunrise.
Oh yes, always the case. And it is nice in its own way, of course. I mean, I enjoy doing that. Like, I would be the first one to get up at 4:30 and go burst crackers for Diwali. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
But this was something very different, and I always enjoyed it. Yeah.
And also, I think because there are stories of Krishna at every stage of his life, from his birth to his boyhood to growing up, and he's the Casanova, he's the tormentor, he's the benefactor, he's almost everything from the day he was born.
Oh, he totally was. And yeah, the storyteller in me will never stop telling stories about Krishna. But yes, so the fact that he was the 8th child and he was the 10th avatar of Vishnu, and how there was a prophecy of his uncle Kamsa being killed by the 8th child of Devaki and Vasudeva, his birth parents. All of that always kept coming back to me, in the sense I've heard those stories as a young child, and somehow it was so nice to see all those on TV and read those books, because Krishna was always the victorious one. And very subtly he would win over all the evil. That's what I enjoyed the most. without doing much, aram say
Yeah.
something will happen.
And
He'll
to
just
have
be
this little
flying.
smile playing on his lips
Mm.
whenever you saw, I mean, his
Yes,
dark skin and that little bit of a smile that was
yes,
always playing.
yes.
So there was always mischief over there.
Always, always, exactly right. I think as kids, I mean, even now, I mean, I enjoy that part. You take away mischief from Krishna, and what is Krishna? I mean, Krishna
Yes,
is utter
absolutely.
mischief.
And it also somehow gives you the leeway saying that, hey, if Krishna can be mischievous and do this, then why not me?
Oh yes, I mean, I'm recalling a personal incident. My older son, when he was like I think 5 or 6 years old, and he was into mythology then, and we were reading Krishna stories. So one day he goes to his tennis class, and I get a complaint when I go to pick him up that man, your son put mud into his mouth. And when I asked him, he opens his mouth and says, Mama, can you see the universe in my mouth? So he had taken the form of Krishna and he thought I could see something in his mouth. So I think mischief and Krishna and kids cannot be separated.
Amazing, yeah. Look at the simplicity of it, and actually, and as a mother, I think you would see the world in your child's mouth if you
I'm
could.
sure.
So the story, the mythology goes that Krishna was born to Devaki and Vasudev, and in a jail cell because Kamsa had, I think, captured
Imprisoned
Devaki
them. Yes.
and was
Because,
taken away.
Yes, so they consciously decide. I mean, they're given a chance. So when Krishna is born, miraculously, all the guards who are, keeping guard at their cell, all fall asleep. Everybody there is asleep, and the shackles there are miraculously open. And Vasudev takes Krishna in the pouring rain, and he goes to his friend Nand Gopal's house, and he exchanges the babies. So Krishna is safe with Nandagopal and Yashoda, and he brings back their daughter because the prophecy said that the eighth child, who is a son, will kill Kamsa. So that was the reason. And yes, and as we know, Kamsa tried killing the eighth kid, the girl baby too, and she flies up in the air and says, "The one who is going to end you is already somewhere safe. So you beware."
And as prophecy has it, he goes on to do a lot more than just that. So Krishna, as we see Krishna, there are different stages of his life. Like you said, as a child, where certain communities celebrate Janmashtami, where he's the Bal Gopal or Laddu Gopal. I went to I think Srinathji, the temple over there in Nathdwara, and I was fascinated with the kind of worship that they had over there with him. They have different temples that celebrate. The main temple, of course, has him in the Govardhan group, or the goat herd. But the main, there's a temple by the side where worship begins first thing in the morning, and he's open up they call him the Laddu Gopal. It's so beautiful, the worship, and that entire, this thing of going through the entire service is so fascinating. So now Janmashtami is celebrated, you said, in the evening in your homes. So why don't you walk us through what happens at home? What is the sentiment?
Yes, so the sentiment around Janmashtami is that we are ushering Krishna in, right? So the baby Krishna is walking into our homes. So the first thing which I vividly remember is my mom putting rangolis. So in Tamilian households, of course, we have the powder rangoli, which is put out every morning. But during special occasions, we soak raw rice, and then grind it into a nice paste, which is little liquidy. And we use cotton or any rag, like an old piece of cloth. We dip it in, and then we draw a rangoli with our fingers. So that is something that I remember vividly, that my mom would draw Krishna's feet from the entrance to the place where, either the puja room or the place where our temple was kept, like our idols were kept. So it's like Krishna is entering and reaching that place, and that's where all the prasad would be laid out. So coming to prasad, everything white is what I remember we would offer Krishna, which we still do. Of course, I still do that even in my marital home. So everything white, as in milk, curd, butter. And now that I am with my husband and children, I also offer paneer and cheese because my sons believe, they first said, why not paneer? Why not cheese? I said, okay, done. That's white and we'll offer that to Krishna.
Absolutely.
There is no arguing with logic.
Yes.
And then, of course, poha being his favorite dish.
Yes.
So, poha also finds its way into the offerings.
Right.
And I remember that because of Janmashtami, I learned to make rangoli. It was a time where my mom was a bit unwell with her back issues and she couldn't bend down to do this rangoli thing. So, one had to take it up. And of course, I liked it as well. But yeah, that's how I learned it. So yes, Janmashtami is special in, more ways than one for me.
Yes, absolutely.
And I continue to do that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, please go on.
No, I continue to do the rangoli part at my home now as well. And my son pretty much enjoys it. My younger baby is like getting familiar with whatever this woman is doing. But yeah, looks like he likes it too. And
right now, I think must be completely fascinated. And
yes.
And it's also all these white items and things like that takes you back to stories of Krishna stealing butter and getting punished with it for it.
Punished, yeah, pseudo punishments. Those were never real punishments because I think everybody in Gokul used to love Krishna so much that nobody could actually punish him. But now that we are talking about stories, Payal, may I go back to one story about how and why poha was his favorite?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we all know about how Sudama, his best friend, goes to meet Krishna after ages when he's not, very well off and he wants some help from Krishna. And he takes poha to him. And when Krishna eats poha, the poha that he had carried, everything changes back home at Sudama's house. Now, the reason he takes poha was because when they were at Gurukul, when they were studying together, there was a day when they were sent out to the forest to get wood. In those days, the students themselves would go out and fetch wood for cooking, for doing all their Havan, Puja and everything. So, the Guru Patni, their Guru's wife, had given a bit of poha to Sudama, saying that keep this poha with you. And I think with Sudama, there was Krishna and one more boy who had accompanied them to go and get this firewood. So she says that, keep this poha with you and whenever you people feel hungry, share it and eat it. Now, it so happened that they were there in the forest for a long time and it was going to be night. So they decide to camp there for the night. And Krishna being Krishna, he knows everything. And he asks Sudama, do you have poha with you? I think, I'm a bit hungry and I think you had a bit of it. So God knows what happens to Sudama that time. He says, no, I don't have anything. No, I don't. So Krishna says, okay, fine, no problem. I'm just going to sleep now. And let's go back tomorrow morning when, it's when the sun rises because you can't cross the forest after the sunset. You never know which wild animal is coming your way. And Krishna goes to sleep. And Sudama stealthily, eats of all the poha. The third boy is also fallen asleep by then. So that is a reason that Sudama and his wife always thought that he was indebted to give that poha back to Krishna.
Right.
So when he gives that poha back, all the riches and everything, that he deserved came back to him. So this is one little bit of story that I really enjoy about Krishna.
It's so simple and if you think of it, it's such a basic and simple ingredient. I mean, what is poha? And it's about, I think everything to do with Krishna has a lot of layers. It has a lot of layers. Yes. There's nothing that meets the eye, simply meets the eye, dude.
Exactly. There's so much of reason to everything. And when we listen to these stories, we realize, there's so much more to Krishna than what is known to us or what we've been told always.
Yes. The Natkat Krishna and all of that. So, at home, generally on a Janamashtami day, I mean, if you what are the special things apart from, of course, the offerings, like you said, milk products, mainly everything white and poha and things like that. But are there any special things that are cooked in your home as a Tamilian?
So there are a lot of savories, first of all. Like there is something called as chilli. Chilli is nothing but it's like a deep fried rice ball made out of rice flour. It's salty, and then we have something called vella chilli, which is made out of jaggery. It's a bit sweet. And we have muruk. Muruk is the chakli, the Tamilian style of muruk. And there is one very special dish which I enjoy eating is that's in my marital home that my mother-in-law makes really well. It's something called as Puli Avil. Now, Puli Avil directly translates into, what should I say, tamarind poha. It is a tangy kind of poha, which is very peculiar to her maiden home. And somehow, I enjoy eating that, and it has been my favorite since the last 10 years that I've been with them. All the other sweets and savories is something that we do eat, even throughout the year. But this is something which is different, and I enjoy eating it. So it's nothing but, you coarsely grind poha and the dry poha and soak it overnight with a bit of tamarind water, salt, turmeric, and a bit of asafoetida, that is hing.
Yes.
And the next day, you temper it with a bit of curry leaves and mustard, and then you add all these things which were soaked in. The flavor and of course a bit of red chilies in the tempering, and the flavor and taste. Oh my God, I'm already drooling. So this is one of my favorite.
It sounds
dishes.
very interesting also. And it's very unique because I've never heard of something like this. You hear of poha in various forms, but to first sort of grind the poha into something coarse, it's almost like a different kind of a rice. Oh, it sounds really interesting. So is this going to be a recipe for us which you're going to share?
Oh yes, it will. I am going to share this recipe with you so that hopefully the listeners who are listening can also try this out.
Yes, definitely. And it's so simple. It's not even complicated. It's
not
simple.
at all. Not at all.
And I suppose the day it's made, since it's made for a festival and things like that, of course the flavors of everything are completely enhanced, and it becomes so much more interesting.
Yes, it does. I think, with all the heart that you make it just, adds more flavor to that. That's how
absolutely.
It is.
I think it's the devotion and it's the love with which something like that is made. That's something that every conversation I've had so far about festivals, that's one thing that has stood out, where all of my guests have said exactly that when you make something for a festival, it just never tastes the same other times.
Other times, absolutely.
It's just so interesting, and a common phenomenon. Now, I remember when we were speaking about this whole concept of certain communities like the Gujaratis and some others who celebrate they make chappan bhog. I remember you mentioning something about how we came to chappan is 56 things.
Yes, so chappan is 56. So where Krishna was staying, living rather, he was brought up in Gokul, and it was a place full of simple people, agriculturists who were farming and they used to graze their cattle and things like that. So there was a practice that they would worship Lord Indra so that he would bestow them with good rains. That was the belief. But Krishna, again, like I always say, Krishna being Krishna, always had his doubts and always had something to say. And he said, but why are we worshipping Lord Indra? We cannot control nature, right? So why don't we worship all those factors that help us? For example, the Govardhan Parvat. So the mountain Govardhan used to save Gokul from a lot of storm and torrential rains and everything like that. So it was known that Govardhan Parvat is like their savior. So why don't we worship Govardhan Parvat? And all the villagers agreed. Yes. If Krishna says we have to agree, he knows everything. So we should agree with him. And they ignored paying their tribute to Lord Indra, and they were all worshipping Govardhan Parvat. Now looking at this, Lord Indra apparently got very angry. He was so angry. That was Lord Indra's characteristic, right?
Yeah.
Getting jealous, a little angry, the little slight negative shades, but
correct.
Yeah, but he had a reason for everything anyway. So he gets angry, and then he just sends a lot of rain down there to Gokul, and it's pouring and torrential rains, and everywhere it's flooded, and people don't know, and they go running to Krishna asking him, Krishna, help us, please help us, Krishna. What do we do now? He says, don't worry. And he says, just follow me. He goes next to Govardhan Parvat and he lifts up Govardhan Parvat on his little finger. Everybody takes shelter under that Parvat. Now we all know that this continued for 7 continuous days till Indra saw what is happening, and 7 days Krishna did not even eat a single morsel of food. And his sole aim was to protect all the villagers. And everybody was safe. So finally, Lord Indra relented, and then he stopped the rain falling down. And it so happens that Yashoda, Krishna's mother, would feed him 8 dishes on any given day.
Right.
So every day she would feed him 8 dishes. So 8 into 7 days of the week. That was 1 week he was standing there, right? So 8 into 7 gives you 56. And that's how after that whole week, on the 8th day, he was given 56 food items to compensate. And that is the Chappan Bhog.
Amazing. See, so many little things that we just take for granted, and you just hear it just because you know that's how it's done. You say, so as I hear, this is how it happens. So why it happens is what is, I think, makes everything so much more interesting. And then you hear of his Gopal Kala also, the Matka Toro.
And what interests me is, see, Indian mythology, Indian culture, everything has a reason to it.
Yes.
Like 56, come on, 8 into 7 is 56. Wow, I mean, only when we think back and, relate back is when we can understand, okay, it all actually has a meaning, has a reason.
Yes.
So, I mean, I always feel that our culture and our mythology and everything, every little belief has a reason.
And it's a way of life. It's not about religion. It's not about anything. It's about, I think, giving you guidance and just giving you sort of a framework for a better way of life.
Yes, with a reason, which is not known to everybody, and I think now people are looking for answers. So that's what I
think that's what, when times are tough, is when Krishna said, he had said it, isn't it? That I'm here to save the world. And when times are tough is when people actually realize the importance of the whole thing.
Correct.
So this thing about Gopakala, I think, happens in Maharashtra, isn't it? When they do this
Dahi Handi. Yes, so they call it Dahi Handi.
Okay.
So there are in Bombay especially, there are different places where these Dahi Handis are tied up. So this matki is tied up right at the top, and people form those pyramids, and then they climb up, and then one person has to break it. It's a sight to watch because each of it has a jackpot prize, and the prize is huge, mind you. Huge as in it's a lot of cash involved. And then there are groups who do this. There are trained groups. People train for a long time, and it's not easy to do.
Climbing up like that, yes, and then creating that pyramid and climbing up.
Exactly, and there are people disturbing them, right? They're throwing water, they're throwing colors, they're distracting them. Then I don't know what all they throw. So it's just, okay, so frankly, when I was in Bombay, we wouldn't step out because we were scared we would be attacked from somewhere.
Something would get flung at you by chance or something.
Why?
Like that.
I mean, why take a chance? But
you don't fast.
All of this.
You don't fast. A lot of people fast on Janmashtami. So, do you people also fast?
Good question, but no. Tamilians, as far as I
not
know,
everybody does.
At my home, we don't have the practice of fasting, neither in my maiden home nor in my marital home. No.
All right.
Yes.
So, since I think we've covered pretty much everything in terms of the festival, now we can't have a storyteller not telling us some stories for our children and for the adults as well.
Sure. So there's one story which I enjoy telling about Krishna. Again, Krishna's brother Balram and Krishna, while studying in their Gurukul, were again sent to the forest to gather firewood. And this time it was really late, and Krishna tells Balram that, okay Balram, it is late and we better not go, in the dark. Let's not go back. Let's just stay here for the night and tomorrow morning we'll go. So, but the deal is that you have to be awake while I am asleep and I'll be awake when you go to sleep.
Right.
Because we don't know what will come and attack us. So, Balram says, okay, yes, okay, fine. Krishna, you go to sleep and I'll, watch, look out for, if anything goes wrong or something. So, Krishna goes to sleep and suddenly from the bushes out comes a little monster. And he looks at Balram, with his hands on his hips and he's like, ha, ha, ha. And Balram is like, oh my god, what is happening here? So that monster grows a bit in size. And he was like, ha, ha, ha. And Balram gets all the more scared and he's like, oh my god, what is happening? Krishna is also asleep. And that monster becomes so big and he's like, ha, ha, ha. And Balram just faints. He falls down with a thud and in that, Krishna wakes up and Krishna is like, oh my god, was it my time to wake up and, keep watch? Oh no, Balram has stepped off. Maybe it's my chance. And then he, rubs his eyes and he wakes up and he tries to keep watch. And now this monster, which has grown really big, he looks at Krishna and he goes like, ha ha ha. Krishna is like, what? Ha ha ha. Krishna being Krishna. So that monster shrinks in size and he's like, ha ha ha. Krishna is like, what? Ha ha ha. That monster shrinks a little more, even further and he's like, ha ha ha. Krishna is like, what? Ha ha ha. And that monster shrinks further and he just disappears. By that time, it's morning and Balram wakes up, Krishna. And Krishna is like, what happened? You slept well? Krishna, there was a monster here. I know. Where did that go? That went away, he said. How, Krishna? And that's when Krishna tells Balram, Rama, that monster is just like our problems. The more we look at it and get scared, it appears to become bigger. But if we face it with a lot of courage, it will just shrink and disappear. So always remember, never run away from your problems. Face it in the eye and you will see it disappear. So that's the story.
Absolutely. And especially now when times are tough and, everybody is looking for something to hold on to keep the faith. I'd like you to share your personal story about, how during COVID, how the whole faith and the whole story of Krishna kept you going.
Yes, so I was pregnant with my second child and it was my 8th month of pregnancy and it was during the Delta wave and sadly I was down with COVID too. I turned positive and it was quite bad. My husband and my older son were also positive but I was isolated from them because for the fear of cross infection. And the oxygen levels, saturation level was dipping. My saturation level went below 90 and it was a bit tricky then, because it was a situation where, I should have been admitted to a hospital and it was very scary because here in Bangalore or rather anywhere in India, the allocation was only done by the government. So imagine, we didn't know which hospital I would land up in and, what would happen and if people didn't realize I was pregnant. There were so many things to it, so many problems. And I was like dipping, I was thinking, a person who talks so much, I couldn't talk because I had no energy. I only had energy enough to have my medicine, try to shove in some food because I had to. And that's all, the energy left. And I was in a daze and it was just, nothing was registering. But the only story or the only thing that kept coming back to me was the way Krishna protected Uttara's womb. Parikshit, who was in Uttara's womb. Uttara is Abhimanyu's wife. That is Arjun from Mahabharata. This is all the story of Mahabharata. Arjuna, the third brother of the Pandavas, his grandson Parikshit was in Uttara's womb. Now Uttara is Abhimanyu's wife. Abhimanyu was killed in the Chakravyuh, which is quite a famous story. And Uttara was pregnant with his son, and the Kauravas wanted to get rid of the whole lineage. Yes, they wanted to kill the child because they wanted to end the Pandavas lineage there. And that's when when Krishna jumps in and he protects the unborn child. And somehow that womb was protected, and this story just kept coming back to me that, somehow my child is protected. My child is protected. I'm fine. I mean, that was the only thing which kept coming back, and I realized later that Krishna, that whole story of that power meant so much to me. And this was told by one of my storyteller friends who was, I'll quote her, she's Surya Swapna. She used to tell me lovely stories during my pregnancy. She used to take my Garb Sanskar classes. And this is something that totally stayed with me and, probably got me through. It was one
such a trying time.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
Amazing. And then now you say your son is over a year old.
Oh yes, now he's over a year old, and yes, he's as naughty as Krishna could be, I guess. So one more ritual that I follow is, till now I've always dressed up my older son as Krishna, which many people do, and I'm doing that with my younger one too. So yeah, that is again one small little ritual that I follow at home. And something, to keep us
wonderful,
going.
So wonderful. I think on this very happy and very positive note, I wish you and your family a very, very blessed Janmashtami, and I hope all our listeners are going to learn so much from your stories and from your personal battle and the strength that you gained from this one person character in mythology that I think sees everyone through in so many different phases. There's humor. Yes. There's masti, there's seriousness, there's gyan, there's so much.
Oh, yes. So, and Payal, I would really like to say I enjoyed being here, and I was really looking forward to a nice conversation, but it was much better than what I thought it would be. It was like amazing, and I really loved your concept of what you're bringing to people.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So much of luck and success. I think this podcast is meant to reach many, many, many more people.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping so as well, because we're such a beautiful culture with so many different festivals and so much beauty and color, languages and so many different things. So yes, that's the thing, and I'll say tathastu to that, and we'll hope to hear more stories from you at some time.
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again, Nandita. रसोई के रहस्य के इस बहुत ही खूबसूरत जन्माष्टमी के एपिसोड का अंत यही। अगले त्योहार तक इंतजार कीजिए और सुनते रहिए रसोई के रहस्य।
Thank you.